Hello, everyone. This is John Maddox, right from at John Maddox Deadlifter on YouTube. What I thought I would do today, I know you probably haven't heard anything from me since November. No, I think I might have posted something actually on December 8th, the last training session I did before the meet that I did on the 13th. And was it actually 8th? It would have been, no, it would have been like, it would have been like, it would have been even earlier in the 8th. So, because that was like 8 days earlier, and the meet was on the 13th. So, but anyways, what I want to do is I just want to kind of do a recap of the year 2025. So, in my whole professional career of everything that I've done, one of the things that's been the hardest thing for me to accomplish, and understand, I still have this goal to deadlift 800 pounds. But if you've been following anything, or if you want to go back and look at some of my early videos, all right, I document that I have a pretty severe hip injury. And I've been trying to do everything in my power to work around it. So from using a chiropractor named Matt Swang, he helps me with like the decompression work. And then I brought in Dennis, um, who helps me with my sacrum. And he's the one I really do most of the work with now because I was having this issue where after I had this injury, and if you go back, it's because a piece of gym equipment failed and I actually fell on my hip and it just knocked my hip completely out. And then I didn't even realize it at first. And then, maybe like a month or so later or 6 weeks later, I'm sitting on a chair and I went to move and my hip pops back in. And ever since that happened, my hip has not been the same. So whatever it did, whatever damage it did, that socket is still not as strong as the other side. And and then after that injury, I kept re-injuring it because I was trying to do some of the exercises, that helped me become one of the best deadlifters back in the late 90s, like doing what I call power stiff-legged deadlifts. That's doing a stiff-legged deadlift, but from mid-shin, you know. Um, I can't do them, but I was trying to do them because I wanted to build up my strong lower back. I used to have this crazy strong lower back. And right now, I can't even do a standing good morning. I missed 410 pounds, 8 days out from the meet. So if you can't even do a standing good morning with 410 pounds, how are you going to lock out 700 pounds? So, um, and the other big issue I've had this hip injury carrying forward, and it's keeping me from being able to really develop my lower back strength. So that's why you see me deadlifting so wide. That's why you see me squatting so wide. The squat width is, I actually have fusions in my spine from surgery when I was, in my teens. And, those fusions create flexibility issues for me because it's most of my spine, which is actually fused. And so what happens if I keep my feet too close, I literally do this. I come forward because I don't have the flexibility in my spine to stay upright. And my best leverage for my squat would be in a little closer than where I squat because I can better utilize my quad, hams, glutes, and everything. So happen to go wide and then not having a strong lower back. So if I'm not in perfect form, then yeah, I come forward because the spine is fused. I don't have the flexibility to do this. And so I need a certain amount of lower back strength because during the squat, I do this. I come in a little bit and I have to correct it. And so that's where my challenge in my squats happened since I've been in the hospital because I lost almost 10 pounds. So when I weighed in at the meet on the 13th, I weighed in, this is after 3 meals, I weighed in at about 265. And when I did the meet over the summer, before I got, the infection in my leg, I had to go in the hospital. With just having breakfast, I weighed in at 272. And so, it's a 10-pound difference. And so, and the other thing I did too, when the infect after the infection happened, I decided to try to lean up a little bit. And when, trying to lean up, was really a bad decision on my part. I just was starting to get fat, and so I started cutting out some carbs after coming out of the hospital, already having the issues from being in the hospital. And I did look much better. All right, but obviously impacted my lifting. So body weight's, the squat, and well, I'm not really benching because I have a shoulder injury. I've had that since March. So, but like I said, so I got this hip injury, which creates some issues, but I still did some great things this year. So if you go back to January, go look through my shorts, you're going to see I did a lockout with 775 pounds. All right. And then before I hurt my shoulder in March, you can see me doing the decline because I don't like to do flats because of fusions in my spine. It puts a lot of pressure on my hip, and now I have a hip injury. So I can't really flat bench. It doesn't mean I can't flat bench at a meet. What it means is the repetitive, form of being in that position, you know, um, it's a cumulative effect over time will cause the hip to get irritated. By going to the decline, it takes the hip out of it. So, and I'm still training the press. It's just a little bit different movement, right? So you gotta work around stuff, man. Especially someone with me who has fusions in my spine. So when I was younger, I had a lot of flexibility in my lower spine, and so I could easily bench on a flat bench because even though my spine was fused and I couldn't get my chest up like I wanted, because I had flexibility in my lower spine, I was still able to get myself in a decent position. And my bench was not bad back then. I tore my rotator cuff in 1998, and that's why I kind of disappeared for 5 years. If you go back and watch my video, Who the F is John Maddox? You're going to see that picture there. So that picture was at the 95 deadlift nationals. I got second place. That deadlift is 690 pounds, and I stiff legged it. I kind of overtrained coming to the meet. My legs were tired, and I needed that to get second place. And dude, I fought it. I stiff legged it. And if you notice, as Craig Terry, my longtime training partner, you can see him doing this. He couldn't believe it that I got it. I literally did a stiff leg with six. That's how strong my lower back was back in the day. Crazy lower back strength. And so I don't have that anymore. But what I've done because of the injury, I've developed my quad strength, right? I've just developed my hamstring strength. I mean, even today I did, glute hams. I weigh about, 265. I'm trying to gain weight. I'm eating like a pig again and get my weight back up. All right. But I hold on to a 35-pound plate, and I did 5 reps of that today. And the last time I did it, because I took almost a month off, I only deadlifted at the meet and trained. So this was I did work out today. Today was my second training day in the gym. So I did the one, I guess would have been 8 days prior to the 13th, um, and which is the fifth, I guess, right? So, and I'm supposed to be an accountant, but I use a 10 key. But anyways, that's the last time I tried doing the glute hams, and I easily did 8, right, with holding on to the 35. And like I said, I haven't done them since then, and I was at least able to do 5. And I squatted today, but I got to make sure I look upright. I did squat 550, and my last workout that I did prior to the meet, I only went up to 410 for box squats. You can see the short. And I did deadlifts first that day because I want to practice. Because the 3 meets I've done so far, the one I did last year, didn't practice at all. I just showed up at the meet. I was much stronger last year. And I'll explain that in a minute. So I was the biggest I ever was last year, and I was the freaking strongest. All right. But towards the end of last year, I overtrained. All right. I had to back off, and in December, I got sick. So, and so because of that, you see my lifts do a dip early in 2025. And then uh, going into the hospital was just very difficult. So anyway, so I got sick starting in December once, 5 more times in 2025, plus I got the infection in my leg. So all that in 1 year. So it kills your training. All right. And but during the year, independent of that, I've done everything I could to build up everything I could in my hip around this hip joint because it's obviously the joint. Because I don't want to force my hip out again, right? And have to deal with that. So I had to give up doing, the power stiff deadlifts, which I traditionally use to get a super strong lower back. All right. And then I started trying to work in these standing good mornings. But because of being sick and everything, I keep doing them and then having to drop back. Doing my lifting this year, It's been frustrating. All right. So, but if you go early in the year, my best lifts for 2025, 775 in the lockout, even though my lower back sucks. All right. March, 385, on a decline. And then April, I did a raw 600-pound squat. And just so you know, the year before, I did a raw 635, which is the most I've ever squatted. Right. And I wanted to break that this year and even go a tad deeper because, it's like right there on the border, right? Because I even dropped back and actually put a camera on the side. Before I wanted to post on YouTube, I didn't want to post high squats. So I ended up doing a practice run, looking at it, and it's like right there, right? It would pass in an APF meet, most likely, right? Obviously would have passed in a USLPF meet. Nothing passes in a USL meet, but it's not an SPF level squat, right? It's an APF level squat. But it looks so close. I said, how I'm going to stand on some thinner plates to make sure I'm squatting below parallel. All right. So there's no question about it. So I made that change in December of last year. So that's 1 year ago, just before I started putting my shorts up. I think I'm around 100,000 views. I'm pretty close to it. I haven't looked at it in a while because I haven't posted in a while. I know I was pretty close. I was at like 90,000, 96,000 views a couple weeks ago. All right. So like I said, I'm going to be 60 here in February. So I locked out 775 after squatting, did a 385, even though it's a decline. It's not a very steep decline. I understand that. So and um, I did a raw 600-pound squat. I mean, those are pretty impressive. I'm just trying to come back because of this being in a hospital. Plus, I dropped some weight. So coming into next year, if I could stay away from being sick, right? I've never been sick 6 times in a 12-month period, ever in the history of John Maddox's life. And usually it's once every other year, something like that. And I know the gym has the most bacteria anywhere. We actually had someone send us um, the stats in regards to how contaminated gym equipment is. It's like 300, I think it said 367% greater than a toilet. So understand, you should be cleaning not only the stuff that you're laying on, but the actual bars that you're using too, if you want to make sure you don't have an issue. Now I'm really concerned. After getting the infection in my leg, all I do is scrub my legs when I jump in the shower. I'm so concerned. I don't want to get any bacteria in my. I've never had an infection like that before. I never had to go to the hospital for 3 days to have IV antibiotics, on top of it. So, but anyways, for being almost 60 years old, to do a 775 lockout, a 385, even though it's a decline, and a 600 raw squat, that's pretty impressive. I don't take anything other than creatine. So, no, none of this TRT crap. I even posted I mean, obviously, I just took a recent TRT test, but I'm probably not going to get those results. So the next time I go see him, I know they got a web portal. I should just log in and then I can post it. I don't know why I don't do that. So, um, you haven't, another reason why you haven't seen me too is because I have been moving my office. I've actually moved it to my home. So I see a different background. So I actually pulled out some of the trophies I have. Some of the ones I have left. Most of my trophies got destroyed when I had a contract to work in my house many years ago. They were replacing the pipes, the galvanized pipes with copper pipes. And somebody fell off their ladder and fell right on top. I used to have all my trophies in one place, and he fell right on top of them and broke almost all of them. So I threw them all out, other than the bigger ones, like the one behind me. That was my second place at the 95 National Deadlifting Championships, and I had a second one like that, which got destroyed when he fell on him. So I still got the plaques for each one, and that was my first place for the two-man deadlift with Craig Terry in 1995. So second in the open, and then we won the two-man deadlift attempt. We ended up deadlifting 1,300 pounds. This is 1994, when the first time I ever did a 700-pound deadlift, and I ended up getting best lifter in the deadlift because it was just a deadlift meet that I did. So I won the best lifters. I think one of two best lifters. I noticed I got another trophy in my room. And I go, why do I have this trophy? And I look at the bottom, it says best lifter. So I must have got another best lifter. And the one over here, this is my national deadlifting trophy from 1998. And so that one's important because I had a chance to compete against Jim Cash, the legendary deadlifter. He was like coming out of retirement. I understand he was still 15 years older than me. All right. But still, dude, he's one of the greatest deadlifters ever in the 220. And at that time, he held the biggest conventional deadlift, which he did, years earlier. He's still to be able to say that you beat one of the greatest deadlifters in the world. That's pretty cool. The trophy up here above is the 97 National Deadlifting Championships. And I had the opportunity to meet, oh, God dang it, one of the greatest deadlifters ever in the 198 and the 220-pound class. Oh, man, it's going to bug me. I can't think of his name now. So, but anyways, that was great. That was actually in Ohio. There's a couple, the National Deadlifting Championships have been in Ohio quite a few times. So, and then the thing you see hanging around it, that's from the summer when I did a meet because someone I know at the gym, Art Little, was running the nationals for the APF, AAPF. So I went and I competed in the deadlift, the national deadlifting championship for my age and weight class. And unbeknownst to me, I broke the world record in the deadlift for my age and my weight class, which is pretty cool. So now I have a world record. I've never had a world record before. And so, anyway, that's why those are back there. There's kind of cool accomplishments I've had in my life. And the last meet I did, that's what these two are from. And just so you know, because at the gym, when you see my lifts at the gym, I'm looking at the perfect place to try to make sure I stay upright because my lower back is weak because of this issue I have with my hip makes it very hard to train it. So I ended up doing a 584 deadlift for one of these. All right. And they also offered a 13-inch deadlift. And so this is for the 13-inch deadlift. Of course, I'm the only guy in my weight class. When you get to be the older you get, the less people you have competing. All right. So, but I did 585. First time I had an issue locking it out of my knee and so brought my feet in a little closer. The second time, locked it out. And then I tried 705 for fun to break it off the floor. Because I'm way stronger than a 585 deadlift, even with not having any lower back strength. I've spent so much time building up my squat, building up my glutes. I do, these exercises. I do the whole entire stack for 50 reps both ways. I've done everything I can to build around that hip injury, the stabilizers. I'm actually way strong. If I can get that hip fixed, I believe you're going to see the 800-pound deadlift. But without ever getting it fixed, I'm in big trouble. And I don't want to get a replacement because there's new medical technology just around the corner. Right? They never tell you the exact date that this is going to come out. It's called med beds. Right? It's this advanced technology, and it's going to be free for the public to use too. But it can heal almost everything in your body through sound and frequency and vibrations. And this is really cool technology. Trump's even, tweeted something out about it, some AI video, and then he took it down, because they wanted to start the exposure process to the public so people aren't shocked about it when they come out. But people are training on them. I know that because I'm also my side job. I'm a full-time CPA. I like to power lift, but I'm also an independent journalist. I run my own platform called communityreviews.org. And and I don't like to say too much on here because I don't want my YouTube channel to get taken down. All right, but the mainstream media is actually controlled now by the military, and they've had to take over the entire planet. It's a 35 military alliance, and it's not everybody in the military. It's the 35 special forces plus some other people helping out. And they've taken over everything, all right, because they went around and these elites were planning to kill off everybody. So that's what COVID was part of. This has all been planned out for years and years and years. But anyways, so they've been putting out intel for 8 years now, but if you don't go to where the military releases it, you don't know anything. So, but if you're interested in learning about that stuff and what's really going on and how what you watch on TV is just a scripted movie by the military, most of the people you're looking at are actors because the real people have already had military tribunals and they're gone. So more than 200,000 actors at the end of last year. Who knows how many there are now? And so the reason why they put the actors in from central casting, or as I try, Trump says central casting all the time. I've seen compilation videos of Trump saying central casting. They're literally telling you, right? He points at people and says he looks like central casting. That's where they get the actors from. It's a company that's been around 100 years. They provide, backups for actors for Hollywood and stuff like that. So, and that's where they get the actors from. With these skin mask technology, I mean, look how good the Halloween mask are. So, yeah, you get a really good one. It looks pretty damn realistic. Most people just don't realize it. Like, I just realized recently almost everyone in Hollywood, all the elites are transgender. They worship a satanic god called Baphomet. Who would ever imagine that, right? So learning that, the world's an interesting place. So, but get ready, it's going to be a lot of disclosures coming out. But I don't want to talk more about that now. If you want to go to communityreviews.org, I have my own podcast over there too. And I do another podcast with someone who gets direct military intel. So we can get you up to speed on what's really going on in the world. But what you watch on TV, I'm just telling you right now, it's a scripted movie, all right, to inform the public of how evil these people were. All right, they're going to show you what they had planned for us. And so, and understand, this is the controlled version. What they really were going to do to us was far worse than what the military is going to make it look like. So, anyways, so moving forward here, since this new technology is coming out with the med beds, what I'm hoping is that once that comes out, I can get my hip fixed. Because I'm not planning to give up. I'm working on gaining weight now. I'm working to see if I can still break that squat record. I'm gonna find out some goddamn way to train my lower back without injuring the hip socket. And I'm going to keep working and I'm going to keep trying to do more because last year, because like I said, I wasn't doing videos at the gym until December, but dude, I was doing partials with 800 pounds. So locking it out. So, a little higher than the position you see me doing now. But yeah, and this is after squatting. I was much stronger last year. And my squat was even stronger than I mean, I did the 600 in April, but by the time in August of this year when I went into the hospital, my squat was way stronger than 600. I was even thinking about trying to break us doing a 640 squat. So I was stronger then. So and then after going to the hospital, it just messed everything up. So but like you said, everything around my lower back is as strong as it's ever been in my life. So once I get the lower back, the hip fixed, and I can get the lower back strength up to match everything. You're going to see some incredible deadlifts. All right, it is coming. So please be patient. If you don't really know me personally, you will understand I'm one of the most driven people you're ever going to meet in your life. So um, and like I said, for 2026, my goal is to get as strong as I can, to keep gaining, to keep showing you that, dude, high intensity training works. Like I said, I hadn't even squatted over 500. Actually, I think I did 400 on the fifth when I came into deadlift, right? And that was after I deadlift. I just did a box squat with 405 or 410. Technically, that bar weighs, it's not a 45-pound bar, so it's 410. So the last time I actually squatted 500 or more, it was like a week or two earlier than that. So, and then I just squatted 550 today at the gym. So, and I took 600 out and did a negative. So you're going to see I'm going to post those shorts here pretty soon. So I just want you to know, coming up here in 2026, my goal is to get as big as I've ever been. And I want to get my best squat. All right. And hopefully, this shoulders feel much better. This one I hurt in March. And this one now feels better. I want to get to the point where I can start practicing more of a wide grip bench, doing some of the exercises that I'm missing. I like to do the lat pull downs after I do the bent rows, because it helps stretch out my lower back, because I do the whole entire stack for many reps. You go back, some of my shorts, you're going to see that. For some reason, I got incredible lat strength, right? Because, my fusions of my spine don't impact me there. But in my bench, because I can't arc, I can't engage my lats, it really impacts me on my bench. So, but anyways, my goal is to break the best decline that I've done, right? To obviously, do the 800-pound deadlift, but, even if at this point I can continue to do what I'm doing, with pulling from the blocks. The reason why you don't see me doing an alternating grip deadlift in my training is because I have an injury to my hip joint. And I don't want to twist and injure it. So I use the straps on purpose. I have a very strong grip. I mean, I went to the meet, my grip was awesome. So I have a very strong grip. So I have a 250-pound gripper, which I did 30 reps at each hand prior to the meet. These are the most reps I've ever done with it. So incredibly strong grip. So, but I use the straps on purpose because I want my body to be balanced so I don't irritate the hip joint. So, but anyways, my goal is to see if I can get 800 for at least off those partitions, right? After squatting, to get my best bench and do a 640 squat or more. But anyways, like I said, here's John giving you a recap for 2025. Everyone have yourself a great new year. And you're here from me next year. All right. Everybody have yourself a great day.